Welcome. Today I'm reviewing A. Smith Bowman batch number 3. How is it? Let's find out. Now, before we get in the review, I need to let you guys know about my first live stream that I am doing next week, Friday, March 15th. You're going to want to tune in because I'm going to be popping this Old Rip Van de Winkle, giving my first impressions, and I'll be giving a 1 ounce sample giveaway to one of the lucky people watching the live stream that night. There might be some other giveaways. I haven't fully hashed out all the details yet, but I left a link in the comments below. Go click on it, hit the notification bell, that way you don't miss when I go live. All right, so now I am stoked that I get to drink the A. Smith Bowman today. It is from the oldest distillery in Virginia. It used to be up in Reston and moved down to Fredericksburg. They're known for the John J. Bowman. In Virginia, I know it's pretty easy to get, but I know across the country it can be a little more difficult to get. Bowman is owned by the Sazerac Company, the same company that owns Buffalo Trace. So that's the reason a lot of people make that connection. And there is a rumor that Buffalo Trace first distills it and then they ship it up to Bowman to redistill it. I don't know if that's true or not, but that is a rumor that is going around about John J. Bowman. So batch 3 this year comes in at 135.1 proof and is 9 years old. It's coming in at a little lower proof and aged than the first 2 batches. They were both 10-year products and hazmat. Last year I think it was even as high as like 144. So while the specs aren't as good as prior years, they're still pretty impressive specs. If someone handed me a 9-year-old bourbon that was 135 proof, I'd be ecstatic to try it. The MSRP on the bottle is $100, but the lottery is already come and gone. They held it once a year. It's always in January. Actually, last year it might have been in December, but this past year one was in January. They don't like people line up in line, so how it works is you go online, you enter your address and info. It's 1 per person, I think, and they run a lottery, and then you have to go to the distillery to pick it up. So while I was not able personally to get a bottle, I was lucky enough to able to obtain a sample. So let's dive in and see what it's like. Unfortunately, I don't have a bottle of it to show you what it looks like, but I'll add a nice little image here on top of the box so you guys can follow along. All right, on to the aroma. So the most prominent note I'm getting is like a almost caramelized maple syrup. It is super rich and strong. You can 100% tell that this is a high proof bourbon. There's a little bit of almost sting to your nostrils as you're smelling it. A tip though is if that is actually happening for you, you probably should pull your nose away a little bit. If you put your nose too deep into the glass, you can get that ethanol burn and it can actually prevent you from getting the aromas. So as you go to smell a bourbon, you should gradually, bring your nose to the glass until you can start slightly getting the aromas. Maybe go in a little bit more, but once you start getting that ethanol burn nose, you've gone a little too far. So Bowman says another note you should get is caramelized apple. I'm not getting a lot of apple on this. I'm not really, thinking maybe green apple or Fuji or any of those. I'm not really getting that, but I definitely agree with the caramelized note. Yeah, the best way to describe this is it just smells like a well-aged bourbon. The dense, rich notes you get in this, it just smells like something that has been aging for a while in the barrel. So now that I've smelled it a couple times, I'm starting to actually get that sweet fruit note that you'd get from a John J. Bowman. If you ever had John J. Bowman, that nice sweetness you get to it, I equate it almost to like maybe a E.H. Taylor level kind of sweetness, not so much bland. I know a lot of people make that connection, but to me it's more closer to an E.H. Taylor. So maybe the E.H. Taylor is an apple note, but whatever that note is in this bottle. All right, onto the palate. All right, so I can definitively say that this is a special pour. I really wish I had a full bottle of it because I'm almost ready now to king this as whiskey of the year. It is a really, really, really good pour. So when I review a bourbon, I always either like to try to talk about whatever the most prominent notes are in the bourbon or what I think is the best aspect of it. Sometimes it's the aroma, front palate, mid palate, finish, whatever it may be. but on this A. Smith Bowman, it is 100% the finish. This is probably one of the better finishing bourbons that I've had in a long time. It just lingers on your palate and is just constantly evolving. Even as I'm here talking, I am just going through a roller coaster of flavors on my palate. Another thing the bottle does really well is the transitions between the flavors. This is something I've had a trouble describing to people before, but once you drink enough bourbons, you'll start to realize sometimes flavor notes just don't go well together. In the front of the palate, you'll be loving it, and then all of a sudden the back half of it, it just turns super sour, or the transition between the flavors are a little off. But with this one, when one flavor's dying, another one's ramping up, and then as that one is peaking, another one comes up, and it's just a nice, almost orchestra of flavors. I know that's probably another weird analogy too, but there's just a lot going on here. And I wish I had a better palette to describe every single flavor, but what I'm telling you is there is just a lot going on in this. So when you first take a sip of this, you get that instant John J. Bowman flavor right at the beginning, and it's a much richer version of the John J. Bowman, but it's that nice sweetness. And then as you move to the mid palate, that's when the oak and the char start coming in there. A little bit of the more darker, I'm trying to think what sweetness it is, but it's a very nice, sweet, dark note. Maybe like a plum. I know the notes said raisin, but I don't want to go off the notes too much. A lot of times I don't like to read the notes before I do the review, because once you get it in your head, it really gets stuck with you and you start tasting that. So I normally try not to, but I did see the notes before I opened this one, and it said raisin, but it might be closer to a plum for me. Yeah, I really just can't get over that finish. It is spectacular. It's not so much a viscous feeling. A lot of times when I talk about bourbons, I'll talk about how they're viscous and they're kind of coat your whole mouth. This isn't so much viscous as just lighting up all the senses on your tongue. It just sits there and your tongue just kind of explodes with flavor. Okay, before I get into my final review of the A. Smith Bowman, if you're enjoying this content, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my future posts. And in addition, consider subscribing to my Patreon. There have been a lot of costs that have been going just to get this channel off the ground, and the Patreon is the best ways to support me going forward so I can help generating more and better content in the future. So I think it's pretty easy to guess where I'm gonna fall in this bottle. I am giving this pretty much S tier level. This has been one of the best bourbons I've ever had. I am truly in love. For $100, it is an absolute steal. Buy it every day, buy backups, bunker that bottle. Unfortunately, you can't get it for that right now in the secondary. I think they're going for about $800. I can't recommend anyone to spend $800. That is a lot of money. You can spend that money on many other things in life and make yourself happy. But if you're the person who does play in that price range on the secondary market, this is a bottle you should get. It will not disappoint you. There are many bottles that cost that much on secondary and just don't have half the flavor that this bottle does. This is also a bottle I would consider trading for if you had the bottles to trade for it. Like, it's pretty similar value to the George C. Stagg from this year, the 2023, I guess last year. I would trade the George C. Stagg in a heartbeat for this bottle. I would much rather have the A. Smith Bowman Batch 3. But for a minimum for myself, I am going to be hunting down at least another 2-ounce sample of this bottle if I can, so it can go in my end of the year blinds, because I really truly think this will win Whiskey of the Year, if not be top 3. I'm pretty sure if this was in last year's blind, I think it would have won. Just tasting right now, this is an absolute fantastic bottle. So that's my review of the A. Smith Bowman Batch 3. But before you head out, if you're enjoying this content, make sure you check out this video or this one. And until next time, cheers.